Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Explain This. I'm with the star of the show, Robin Riddle. Robin, are you ready today?
I am ready.
You're ready. Our timing is going to be impeccable because we're talking about timing today. And one of our most common questions we get when people call into the office is they want to get their labs drawn, in particular hormones, a lot of them.
Yeah.
And they want to know, when should I check my hormones? Because they change throughout the day.
They do.
So kind of walk us through the change and then why it's important when we get these labs checked.
Okay. So I'm going to divide it out into men and to women because it's going to be very different. Why it's important to follow this timing so we don't waste the labs. If we time them wrong, especially for women, it's going to completely change the results. So it is very important to follow the recommended timing and get them done on either the day or time that you've been told to get them done on. Okay. So for men, men who are not on any hormone replacement therapy, but are interested in possibly being. The day and time is not super critical for us. Any day, anytime really is going to be okay. For insurance purposes, which we don't do insurance here, but you may have heard this in other practices, you have to have 2 draws done before 10 a.m. That's important because testosterone levels are highest in the morning. So if you're going to somewhere that does run insurance, you have to prove to insurance twice that your highest levels are still low.
Oh, that's a good point.
For us, it's not so important. Any day, anytime. If you need to come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's okay. There is going to be a little bit of fluctuation there, but it's okay. For men who are already on hormone replacement therapy, if we are doing shots, there's 2 ways to get your labs drawn whenever you are on testosterone injections. My preferred way is 2 to 3 days after you've had your last shot. That's going to get us a peak level. That tells me how high you're going. That lets me make sure that we are not going too high. We're staying in a safe range, but also lets me see if we need to be a little bit higher, if I need to bump you up a little bit. So this is really what I recommend all of my new guys do. They're 6 to 8 week follow-up labs. I like to get those peaks, so I make sure I'm adjusting how I need to. And, if people have the time to get the peak, I like that through. I'm a little bit different in that. That's not across the board with performance medicine. That's just how I was trained initially, and that's the way that I like to do mine.
Now, would that 3 days after, would that be in the morning or is it?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, got it.
Just that day. So 2 to 3 days after your last shot. That's going to get us the peak, going to get us how high we're going.
Got it. Okay.
The standard across the board within our practice is a trough level. So the day that you're due for your shot. Most people will come in, get their labs, and get their shot on that same day.
So that would be the trough right after you get your last shot? Or
right when you're due for your next shot.
Got it.
So you're due for a shot. Most of the time that's 7 days after your last shot.
Got it.
So you come in, you get your labs drawn, and then you get your next shot that day.
Got it.
Trough is the lowest that you're going. So it's also very easy to gauge what we need to do based off the trough level. If the trough is too low, we know the peak is not high enough. So yes, peak or trough, 2 to 3 days after a shot, or the day that you're due for a shot.
Got it.
Those are your 2 options.
Okay.
We do have people that doesn't work for their schedule. They just kind of hop in. They're on day 5 out of day 7. I can work with it.
With pellets, would that change?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's only for shots.
Okay.
If we are on pellets, then you need labs when you feel like your levels are getting low. So like if you feel like it's time for them again, that's a great time to come in and get labs. Day, time does not matter on that. And then once we have gotten pellets, 8 weeks after those pellets is when I want to see labs again. That lets me decide if I need to adjust doses at all. Now, for my guys who have been on pellets for years, they don't get those 8-week labs anymore because we're set on a dose. We know what works for them. We know reliably what it's going to do. And we know in 5 months or 6 months, they're going to be back for that same dose.
Okay.
But if we are newer on pellets, we feel like that dose is not working anymore, anything like that, those 8-week post-pellet insertion labs let us know what to do with it.
Okay.
Okay. And then we don't use creams a ton, but we do have some guys that will use a hormone replacement cream. So usually for that, I tell people anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours after they've applied it. So if you put your cream on and you come in for labs an hour later, it may be artificially elevated. If you haven't put your cream on for over 24 hours, maybe artificially low. So we like to catch it in that in the middle.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to catch, you don't want to wait too long, but you also don't go right after. So 3 or 4 hours.
4 to 6 is usually what I tell people.
4 to 6.
So put your cream on in the morning, come in the afternoon and get some labs drawn.
Got it.
So that's for men.
Okay.
Then women. We're always more complicated, right? So there's a couple of different categories for women. I'll start with the easy one. Postmenopausal. We're not having any more cycles. We haven't had a period for at least a year. If you are not on hormones, you're looking for a hormone assessment any day, anytime. Does not matter. Okay.
Got it.
If you are already on hormones, so we've established we're treating and we want to see what's going on with our treatment. If we are using a hormone replacement cream, again, I like to see labs 4 to 6 hours after we've applied it, and do not apply it to the arm because we don't want to put the cream on and then draw labs through where the cream was put. So use it at legs, thighs, something like that.
Okay.
Another common way that I replace hormones is through something called trits, which are the ones that dissolve underneath the tongue. With a trit dosing, I really want your labs 6 to 8 hours after you've taken your trit.
Okay.
It's when levels are going to peak. They're going to be their best. It's going to give me the most accurate reading.
Okay.
If I've got somebody that comes in and they say, I've been out of my trits for 2 weeks, I can't tell you if your dose is doing what it needs to or not.
Interesting.
So try not to run out of your medicine. Try to get your labs done reliably while you still have medicine left. So that way I can tell you if it's doing what it needs to.
And you just made a great point. You've been making it throughout this video is the main purpose of these, labs, these regular labs is to make sure the therapy's working.
Right.
To make sure you're got the right dose, etc.
Yeah. So if you come in and, you tell me, well, I've got this symptom or that symptom, it's way easier for me to tell you how to fix it and what I need to adjust when I have super accurate labs to do that off of.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We do have some women that will do T shots, and there's all kinds of different ways to cycle this. Some people it's every week, every 10 days, every 14 days. I just like to see a level halfway through the shot cycle. So if you do a little bit of testosterone every 2 weeks, then a week after your shot, I want to see labs.
Okay.
Time of day doesn't matter. Just halfway through a cycle.
Okay.
Okay. And then women on pellets, same thing as men. I want labs whenever we feel like we are due for pellets. And I want labs 8 weeks after pellet insertion if we think we need to adjust.
Okay.
So new pellets, always 8 weeks after until we are good with our levels and good with with what doses we're doing each time.
At that point, would you ever get labs again if you feel like a pellet patient is right where they need to go?
I still get them whenever it's time for pellets.
Okay.
So for women, every 3 or 4 months, whenever it's time for pellets, you come in, you get your labs, we do your pellets, and then we don't see you back for labs until you're due for pellets again.
Got it.
That's just us verifying that those levels are indeed low enough to put pellets in.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So next group of women, perimenopausal, irregular cycles. You may have a period 1 month and not again for 3 months. I'm applying the same rules as the postmenopausal.
Okay.
So same thing I just said, that applies to perimenopausal women who are still having some cycles. For women who are still having very regular cycles, and I base what I'm saying on a 28-day cycle.
Okay.
If your cycles are a little bit different, it'll change the days just a touch. But for a regular 28-day cycle, if we're coming in just for a hormone evaluation, and usually I'm thinking my younger women, 30s and 40s who want to see what's going on. Just for an evaluation, we're not on any type of hormones. I want your labs, preferably day 19 to 21 of cycle, or 7 days before your period is supposed to start. That's when we catch that progesterone spike. That's the only time that we can catch that progesterone spike. So that's why I like to get it at that time. And
you want the spike to see how low the spike is?
Yeah, to make sure with progesterone, we want a nice high level of progesterone at that point. And so if we're not getting it, that definitely leads me down the road of knowing what to do from there.
Got it. And the other thing about the perimenopausal period, I guess it's before that, do you advise women to get their hormones checked before having any symptoms of needing hormones or anything to see where their optimal levels are? Yeah, it's a good idea just to have a baseline because if you come in with symptoms, then we don't know what's changed. So when you're good and healthy, it's good to have a good baseline, know where you are at that point. That way down the road, whenever things start to change, we know where you were and where you are now. Would that happen at an endo? Not an endo. At their gynecologist. The right
GYNs can draw them.
Okay.
I will tell you, no offense to any GYNs, but I have seen many patients come to me with labs, hormone labs that they had drawn, and the timing wasn't right on them.
Got it. Okay.
Timing's critical. I can't tell you anything about progesterone levels unless I catch you when your progesterone spike is supposed to be. Otherwise, progesterone's going to be low.
Yeah.
The other ones, I can reliably, take what day you were and see where we should have been at that point. But progesterone, it's got to be drawn 7 days before your next period's supposed to start.
Got it.
Which on a 28-day cycle is day 19 to 21.
Okay.
Caveat to anyone who is doing a hormone eval with regular cycles, if you are on birth control, it is going to change hormones. Oral birth control pills, it's really hard for me to tell a lot about hormones while you're on those. It's going to suppress things a lot. So small caveat to that, because I have people come in all the time that will be like, hey, I just don't feel good. I wanted to get my hormones checked. And I look at them, I'm like, well, everything's low, but they're on like an oral birth control pill. So it's going to make it low. So
do they need to stop that in order to?
That's a whole other conversation. What are we looking to do here?
Okay.
If we really think we have hormonal dysfunction, then the only way I'm going to be able to tell you what's going on is if I see what the hormones are naturally doing themselves, not what medicated hormones are doing.
Got it.
Okay. So 7 days before your period, cycle day 19 to 21. For women who are cycling, but we are doing some sort of hormone replacement, same rules apply. Cream 4 to 6 hours after application. Trits, like if we're doing a testosterone trit or something like that, 6 to 8 hours after you've taken it. And again, shots halfway through the shot cycle. Then the other group of women are women who have any fertility concerns. If we're trying to get pregnant, we want to make sure that we've got good hormone levels to lead into a pregnancy. We just want to know kind of fertility-wise where we're sitting. Then timing is a little bit different.
Okay.
So cycle day 2, so cycle day 1 is the day you start your period. Cycle day 2, we want to get estrogen levels, FSH and LH levels. Then again, cycle day 19 to 21 is where we're going to come back and draw progesterone, estrogen again, and testosterone at that point.
So those hormone labs would be for the intention of fertility reasons,
yes,
not necessarily low hormones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just for fertility concerns. We change that up a little bit.
Got it. Okay.
Get some early labs. So that's 2 lab appointments during the month for something like that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And that's just looking for any dysfunction there.
The timing of this is critical.
It is critical.
Yeah, I had not thought about this.
Yeah.
So this is a great explain this episode.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know about timing? I know before we hit record here, we talked a little bit about, the Cleveland Heart Panel versus getting hormone labs. Kind of how do you walk patients through that?
So if I've got a brand new patient coming in that's just saying, hey, I just want to see how I'm doing. So just needing a baseline, or someone who has kind of some non-specific complaints, some fatigue or low energy, low libido, things like that. You can start with just hormones, but the best bang for your buck is going to be to look at doing a Cleveland, as long as you've got insurance that will cover it. Without insurance, Cleveland's insanely expensive. I totally get it.
Right.
But it's not uncommon for women to come in and say, hey, I think it's my hormones. And well, it's not your hormones. Now we've got to do these other labs and do another appointment after all of this. And so it cascades a little bit more.
Right.
I can give you a lot more answers in one appointment if we have a Cleveland, because it looks at hormones, but it looks at thyroid, it looks at cortisol, so that stress hormone. It's looking at cholesterol levels, insulin levels, vitamin levels. We're just getting a much broader picture with a Cleveland.
Right.
If you're on hormone replacement therapy and we're just seeing how things are going, we don't have to have a Cleveland every time. Maybe once a year is a good thing to do, just so we know how everything else in the body's going.
Right. Overall health sort of things.
Yeah.
Super interesting. Well, the timing of checking your hormone labs. Robin, anything else we need to cover before we wrap this up?
Just if you ever have questions, you're confused, you don't quite understand what category you fall into, call and ask.
Yeah.
Let them know what your situation is. If you just call and say, hey, I want to schedule to get my hormones checked, they're just, going to put you on. But if you tell them, this is my situation, this is what I'm taking, or this is what I'm looking for, it just helps us get a little bit more specific with that lab appointment.
Great point. Great point. Guys, we're going to put in the description below phone numbers to each one of our offices, whether you live in Knoxville or up in the Tri-Cities. We'll also put a link to our episode, or explain this episode on the Cleveland Heart, if you guys want to learn all that's on that panel. Robin, thank you for explaining this timing today.
Absolutely.
Your time, the timing was perfect.
It was.
It was perfect. Guys, you name it, we explain it. As always, we'll see you next time.
Don't go away.